And there it was, gone. Our 5 days with the Payday 3 beta have ended, and what a 5 days it was. We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly all over the course of the limited closed beta, and I'm here to break it all down, from the menus to the all-new weapon and cosmetic customization systems, to the skill trees, the equipment and tools we had access to. Basically, I just want to give you a complete rundown on Payday 3 as it stands with what we've been able to test out. Full transparency, I'm sometimes accused of seeing Payday through rose-coloured glasses, but today I'm going for more of a tough love kind of approach. As I said on Twitter, Payday 3 has nailed the most important aspect already, with a super refined gameplay loop that I adore. However, there are still so many what-ifs surrounding how the game is going to run and operate its live service model. It is essential Starbreeze get this right, lest all the brilliance and potential be wasted. So today I'm going to give my unfiltered opinions on the beta, how it's been executed, what hasn't really impressed me, and what I'd like to see change for launch. So let's go as deep as possible on Payday 3 as it stands. First up, let's start by discussing those more general elements of Payday 3 that comprise most of that excellent gameplay loop. Its visuals, combat stealth, weapon feel, and core mechanics. Now, very little has changed for me compared to my press beta experience back in June. I still think the game looks excellent, Unreal is a massive boon to what the team can produce, with Payday 3's movement and animations for the most part feeling slick and weighty, whilst the heisting environments remain interesting, detailed and much more interactive than ever before. It's a game all about little moments, and Payday 3, even in this early beta stage, has already provided me with dozens of memorable experiences, especially when playing online. Stealth has also been completely transformed from Payday 2's archaic system, meaning you have to do a lot more thinking on your feet now in Payday 3. Creativity and improvisation is the name of the game, and hell, even if you run out of pages, you can still sneakily salvage the heist in stealth if you can play well around the high alert searching security guards. I conceptually love the idea of full casing mode stealth, however the way it currently works feels unintended, so I'd like to see the system expanded upon instead of removed entirely. Crucially, the game is also built well around the transition from stealth to loud. The negotiation phase works excellently and is just one of the many reasons why hostage taking and preservation is now a big deal, with hostage skills being some of the strongest in the game at the moment. As far as loud is concerned, generally, the gunplay is top notch, and I've already had a lot of fun using the beta weapons, yes, even the SMGs, as much as I am loath to admit it after I found a way to make my secondary Castigo revolver the star of those builds. Special units feel exceptionally dangerous outside of maybe the Taser, whose low health pool and limited use of shock mines really let him down in my experience. Dozers, cloakers and the new additions like the Grenadier all serve a gameplay purpose that are a huge part of that Payday magic which creates such memorable moment-to-moment gameplay. I even like the idea of the SWAT van radar, although I hope its function is better explained by some sort of tutorial in the full game. In terms of the overall challenge Payday 3 offers, it's tough to say for certain that they've nailed it until we see a wider range of the more complex heists, but I've found each difficulty to serve its purpose well, with normal being a worthwhile mechanical introduction for new players, hard functioning as a for fun difficulty for those of you who still want to play with a bit of freedom, and very hard and overkill, the top two difficulties actually requiring good map knowledge and team play to successfully complete. I'm still not certain Overkill is a sadistic enough difficulty for the most hardcore Payday 2 veterans just yet, but I do love that, unlike in Payday 2, success is earned on the heist, not beforehand, in the menus. What I mean by that is, if you're a good enough player, you can clear Overkill just by maximising your abilities and game knowledge on the heist, no matter what it is you choose to build and equip. Don't get me wrong, there are still good and not so good weapons in the game, but a more knowledgeable player will be able to make the most out of whatever they're given, meaning the world of Payday 3 challenge runs looks incredibly promising for a runner like myself. I also love the scaling difficulty in stealth, and think that's been well implemented on the beta heist, with solo stealth possibly being the toughest way to tackle No Rest for the Wicked on its hardest difficulty, whereas in the past, stealth always felt like a cheap way of earning DSOD completions. The one area where I'm really conflicted though is Payday 3's fixed Rng Mechanic. Basically, once a heist has been generated, it will not vary from restart to restart, meaning every objective will remain in the same exact location. This does allow you to learn from your mistakes, reducing the likelihood of a quit moment upon failure, but does also lower the difficulty ceiling for the game, enabling you to push yourself further and further into the heist via trial and error and repeat restarts, instead of having to actually engage with and understand what it is you're trying to achieve. Just see my loud overkill run of the bank heist to witness this difficulty cap in action. As for performance, I've had no issues at all, but unfortunately that isn't the case for everyone. I don't think much can be determined from that, as we already know this is a less optimized version of the game. However, with all the conversation around de novo and its impact on how games run, I feel like this should have been a priority when releasing the beta, if only to signal to everyone that it really is okay from a game performance perspective. But what do I know? I have no background in PR or marketing. The always online stuff though, that can bugger off as far as I'm concerned. It has already been more trouble than it's worth in my opinion, with plenty of heated discussion around the impact it'll have on the game's longevity and wider audience, as well as Starbreeze Nebula seemingly showing its innate cracks during the first few days of the beta, when leveling was a complete lottery and server access was down for about 8 hours. Of course, ironing out these issues was the purpose of the beta, and I did see sizable improvements over the weekend, even as more people logged on. Clearly it is the sort of thing that can be managed, but I do think this is a self-made problem for Starbreeze that needn't be impactful to the long-term success of the game with the simple addition of an offline mode. But I've seen no room for flexibility on that as of yet. The new heist designs have also created a bit of a community divide. I personally have grown quite fond of the redesigns, especially when masked up and in the default outfits, but I'm not surprised many would have preferred them to retain their Payday 2 actors' likenesses. I'm told this was a creative decision, but I know it's never going to be to everyone's liking and don't think it really achieved its goal of aging the crew up. Instead, they just appear like they could be completely different people in Payday 3. Switching over to the menus, let's just quickly talk about progression. When it works, there are plenty of systems for you to look to progress as you play the game. You need to research and use skills to unlock more, and should be able to unlock them all in about 20 to 30 hours of gameplay. Weapons need to be leveled up as well, encouraging you to try them all out and see what you prefer, and whilst there was an outright best weapon in the beta, the SAA-144 semi-auto rifle, there were plenty of fun and viable options even within this limited selection. When the full game releases, you'll want to give as many weapons a go as possible, as each one will have challenge paths associated with using them, and those challenges are key to Payday 3's level progression, now named the Infamy system. It's a little bit hard to judge how well this system works when so many of us had progression stunted by the challenge completion error, and the challenges themselves don't actually show up in this build, probably to hide some spoilers. I see its purpose as a way to actually reflect experience playing the game's different heists, playstyles and weapons, as opposed to just who can farm the most XP efficient heist the most. However, it also appears a little bit limiting and maybe points to Starbreeze wanting tighter control over the rate at which you can progress, which itself raises a few red flags if you fear artificial content inflation and are not a fan of a gratuitous grind. The good news is, you won't need to reach max level to obtain all skill points, and most of those required levels can apparently be acquired without having to seek out any specific challenges, meaning I hope level progression will be implemented quite naturally. Back onto the systems we actually know more about, Payday 3's weapons can be modified and customized in quite a few fun and innovative ways. By leveling a weapon, you'll gain access to more mods for it to change how it plays. As I've already discussed, this is a very modern Call of Duty style of doing things, which works absolutely fine and can allow you to heavily transform how a gun functions, although this wasn't very well showcased by the beta's limited selection of attachments. Also, I hate the bloody bars that come with this system. It's hard to follow what values they're actually related to, very difficult to make weapon comparisons with, and make it much harder to craft the weapon you actually want to use. I understand some people like their simplicity, but do think this could easily be remedied by adding a hybrid numerical system to the existing bars. As for weapon skins and cosmetics, these either come in the form of presets that can be purchased with C-stacks and come unmodifiable, or via the new weapon customization system, allowing you to add base color sprays, component color decals, alongside weapon charms and stickers with just about every tool at your disposal to make your weapon look entirely unsuitable for any sort of combat. I can appreciate the effective simplicity of this system, but hope to see it have greater depth in the release version of the game. Masks are very similar to weapons in how they work and can be customized in Payday 3. I've seen a much wider array than we had access to in the beta, and most act as excellent bases from which you can express yourself. Again, instead of variable materials, you add a base paint layer to your mask and then paint on an additional pattern as an overlay that can also take different colours. It's straightforward, but with all the visual improvements to the system, does its job nicely, although as a bit of a mask connoisseur myself, I'd love to see the ability to add more than one pattern and be able to move patterns around the mask freely. Until I'm recreating Couch Baby in Payday 3, I will not be satisfied. As for outfits and gloves, the beta gave us very little to go off, likely again trying to limit the full release spoilers, as I've already seen dozens more options in game. These can be a bit of a hard sell for me at the moment, bearing in mind I'm still in the honeymoon phase with the base hosted designs, but the system itself is fine, although I'll be damned if I save up millions of dollars again for another pair of gloves on my main account. I'm slightly surprised you're not able to customize these outfits, maybe adding unique colors or patterns to them, but as it stands, this will work very similarly to Payday 2, except there should be many more outfits in the game that can be purchased directly with in-game currency, giving you a lot more to do with those stolen funds. Speaking of money in Payday 3, of course it'll be used in the purchase of almost everything I've already mentioned, but we also get to see how the secondary C-Stack currency worked firsthand. Essentially, this is a weekly scaling currency that gets more expensive every time you buy it until it resets at the end of the week. This means that there will always be some way you can invest your money, as these C-Stacks will be used to purchase rarer cosmetics and prefabricated weapons. But it also does that sneaky live service thing of trying to encourage you to log on at least once a week to purchase them at their cheapest. That only gets insidious when the microtransactions start rolling in, so right now this system is fine as it stands, but I will be keeping a close eye on how it's used in the future. Another point of some contention are Payday 3's skills. I was initially thrown off by these, particularly in how they're presented, but have learnt to really enjoy the system, even though I believe there could be some improvements made to it. I've already explained how skill point allocation works in this video, so head on over for a refresher of that, and the new Edge Grit Rush system to get all the terminology down first. It's tough to really judge skill builds in Payday 3 with the beta's limited set of 7 skill points, as it's all about synergy now, with lots of different skills from varied trees working in tandem to create specific and often unique builds. Outside of the Sentry Gun tree, which really is its own thing, there's a lot of potential to hone your own mixed playstyle, which I adore. Also, there are numerous very interesting skills that can add completely unique tools to your arsenal, or make a seemingly innocuous weapon very powerful, and I covered most of my favourites in that previously mentioned skill video linked in the description. But rest assured, there is plenty to experiment with here. However, what I think is clear at this point is that the skills are not yet well balanced from a gameplay perspective. Some skills barely achieve anything, and due to the nature of being able to go over less relevant skills for a build, will probably never be utilised, whilst others have already emerged as close to necessity options for the hardest difficulty. This is natural when game metas form, but I find the gulf between the best and worst skill in the game to be absolutely astronomical, at which point you have to wonder why some skills even exist. I'm all for role-playing skills, but I really don't think I can argue for the existence of a skill like Collateral Control, when the effect it provides is so situational it might as well have been added as a bonus for having a stack of grit. Speaking of the new Trifecta System, a lot of the skill synergy is based around stacking and maintaining these buffs on your heister, but I do have a few minor complaints. First of all, on their own, outside of maybe Rush's movement speed, it can be hard to even notice you have them active, as they don't seem to make much of a tangible difference. This is why I'd add some more of the passive skills in the game to these buffs directly, such as Edge automatically increasing your armor penetration, Grit adding some innate stun resistance, and Rush, dare I suggest it, reducing cop accuracy when active for all those dodge enthusiasts feeling let down by its omission from Payday 3. I would also look to add more ways to actually activate these stat boosts. As it stands, there are plenty of methods to refresh them, but not all that many to get you rolling, meaning most builds are going to default to the few skills that can, hurting overall build variety. The fact that these are difficult to activate, despite not being that impactful, means that any skill that uses them up for its own effect is also much harder to make use of. I'm willing to bet many closed beta testers didn't put in the time to learn this system, as the reward for doing so just isn't significant enough yet, especially on lower difficulties. And I wonder if that just comes down to 10% being a low number compared to the 80% or 100% multipliers we're used to in Payday 2. Personally, I love the concept behind the system and think that a lot of the passive effects work well and are genuinely enjoyable to use, but just want to see it expanded upon and brought more to the forefront of gameplay. Another slightly overlooked system is that of Payday 3's Favours, the pre-planning equivalent from Payday 2. The beta only gave us access to the 4 purchasable favours Gage now offers, but the full release will add many more bespoke options which can be earned as part of your post-heist rewards. These tend to be much more impactful than simply dropping resources in fixed locations on the map, and need to be properly experienced before judging the system, although as it stood in the beta, I thought the system was better balanced and less tedious than Payday 2's, but noticeably more limited, and the loss of a blueprint map screen seems like a shame for those who like to plan their heists out in advance. That said, I must admit I was a sucker for the zipline favour on the bank, granting access to an otherwise obscure location, which does have me quietly excited for how this system is going to expand approaches on other larger scale heists when the game comes out. Moving on to Payday 3's deployable equipment, I think it's fair to say that outside of maybe the medic bag, which was easily the best deployable in Payday 2, every equipment option has seen a sizable buff. ammo bags can now replenish throwables, sentry turrets don't take up ammo or permanently break, and the new armor bag offers an almost essential resource in this game, with health and armor being much more difficult to passively replenish. I like the skills that revolve around these options, but there is one glaring problem. Despite medic bags, ammo bags, and sentries being viable and well balanced internally, they do not come close to armor bags in terms of actual value to a team. The thing is, I don't even think this is the armor bag being too strong. I actually believe it's a product of armor as a resource being far too important and difficult to regain. An excellent suggestion I saw online was to give armoured SWAT types the ability to actually drop small armour plate pickups alongside their usual ammo. This way, armour becomes naturally replenishable, which in turn means there's no need to nerf the armour bag, as it'll be passively rebalanced by simply not being the be-all and end-all of equipment choices. A win-win as far as I'm concerned. Tools or stealth equipment though I have no gripes over. This is a bonus utility option that you can take on a heist with you, often geared towards stealth but with some niche loud applications, such as the mine being used as a stun tool or the camera to track cop spawns. All three tools in the beta were good and have their own unique uses that will vary your playstyle. Overall, I'd say this is an unquestionably brilliant Payday 3 edition. The armor options on the other hand are a little polarizing. Many tank lovers from Payday 3 will be missing the chunky ICTV look now every armor type is a form of ballistic weave. To be honest, I understand the system as it makes outfits more universally valuable and generates some lore consistency now the detection risk system is gone, but I do mourn the loss of bulkier looking character build aesthetics. I've also touched on the system itself, but again, armor in Payday 3 is a very precious resource that you will want to protect and will not be fully recovered over the course of a long gunfight, although small portions can be naturally regained. This is fine as it lends itself well to Payday 3's more resource-focused approach to scaling difficulty, but I think it also encourages very passive play on those harder difficulties, which isn't ideal. Again, allowing some form of active armor regen which rewards aggressive play would be a step in the right direction, or so I believe. The more hardcore of you out there might love the way armor now works, but I think a system more closely related to Bloodborne's regain system than COD's plate system would suit the frenetic heisting of the Payday series much better. The beta didn't give us much to go off with regard to overkill weapons, only allowing access to the Piglet grenade launcher, but I do think this is an excellent system to vary up the gameplay and grant you a way to fight back against the likes of the dozers. Unlike how armor now works, this actively encourages you to pick up kills and play more aggressively. The beta's only option of the grenade launcher isn't the best in my opinion, dealing solid area damage but really requiring skills to function and dealing way too much self damage than I'm happy to deal with. However, the 50 cal sniper is an excellent poster child for the power trip Starbreeze wanted to offer via this system, and I look forward to regaining access to it upon full release. So that was my genuine and balanced review of Payday 3 as it stands. The game is excellent, the production murmurs around it are not. This being more of a feedback style video from me, I do want to take the opportunity to congratulate the developers at Starbreeze for what they've created, but also offer a warning regarding the business and technical decisions to come. The way I see it, when you intend to build a game into something bigger than the sum of its parts, a franchise with merchandise and live action media, there are plenty of money-making opportunities that exist, but are contingent on the community around the franchise continuing to buy into what it represents. As I look at the quite frankly scary landscape that is 2023's game industry, and see a shining example of what games used to aim to achieve, as with Baldur's Gate 3, it leaves me wondering what really drives success in the modern era. Above the systems of predatory microtransactions reliant upon psychologically addictive gambling patterns, games filled with monotony to make paying to skip playing them seem appealing, and always online DRM preventing players from playing games how they want to, or even at all sometimes, it's the goodwill of a game's community that keeps them going and earning. Payday 3's very existence is a product of that goodwill. Players who return to Payday 2 in their droves to play their 7-year-old game and support the developer out of administration. Regardless of anything else I've talked about in this video, regardless of whether you believe me to be some sort of insider or paid shill, from the bottom of my heart, I truly hope Starbreeze never forget what got them here and treats our community, as well as their incredible game, with the respect we both deserve. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with some exciting Payday 2 content this week. See you all very soon. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.